Yes, yes, absolutely. And hello, everybody, and welcome to Business Monday with Jan and Ronette.
Hey.
So, so you want to wait a few minutes to get a few more people, or should we get started?
Probably should just go ahead and get started.
Okay. We're so excited to welcome you back to our conversation about starting, running, and growing a business. We both had a very busy week last week, and both of us have potentials for picking up new work. We've gotten some contacts that were made with us about some new opportunities, and we both received our certification to do business in New York State. So we're very excited about that. So an article was published in the Southwestern newspaper, which is a newspaper that's centered in Southwest DC, about JMA giving back to the Southwest neighborhood. And Ronette was interviewed on the GovCon Giants podcast. You should go check it out. It's very interesting. It's a very good interview. And so if you want to see either of these items or anything else, know anything else about JLAN Solutions or JMA Solutions, you can visit our website and also our social media. You know, we're pretty heavy on social media, so we put all that stuff out there. So last week we talked about building relationships, networking, past performances. So hopefully we gave you all some information that you could use when you're pursuing these areas. We talked about how important character and integrity is in starting and staying in business. As a matter of fact, that was a question from one of our listeners. And we told you that General Motors was launched when the U.S. economy was down. Burger King, CNN, and Airbnb was launched when the economy was down. And Uber was launched during the global financial crisis. So now is a good time to start a business. If they can be successful, why can't you? So today we're going to answer some of the questions you asked in last week's Business Monday episode. And then we're going to talk about business finances, talk about startup costs, business banking, and the like. So I'm going to let Ronette get us started with some of the questions that we were asked of us last week, so we can answer those for you.
Absolutely. So some of the questions that were asked last week were, we have been aggressively responding to sources sought on Beta SAM, hoping to get our name and our capabilities out there. Is that a good approach? I would say yes. Definitely, you need to market yourself. You definitely need to apply for those sources sought notifications because contracting officers get to know who you are. They get to know your company name. They get to learn your capabilities. And also if you have any set-asides, because a lot of these government agencies have goals that they have to meet. And maybe, once you start submitting those sources sought notifications, you will get recognized. So Jan, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I'm in total agreement. All the conferences and industry days and to small business meetings that I've gone to, that's one of the things that they emphasize, that you have to respond to sources sought. You have to do that in order to get your information out there. So I'm in total agreement with you.
Absolutely. Okay, and then do you feel that minority businesses think short-term, like depending on an 8A, but do not think long-term and plan for when they come out of it, or does that hinder the system? So I'm an 8A right now. Jan is a graduate of the 8A program. For me, I have a great business opportunity specialist at the SBA, and he keeps me informed on everything. We have to do a certain percentage of our business with commercial work, 8A work. I'm also a hub zone, so I'm always looking for opportunities there, and there are agency goals for hub zone as well. But for me, since I waited about 8 years before I applied for my 8A, I knew that I couldn't just rely on 8A revenue. I knew that I had to expand and look beyond the 8A program because I plan to stay in business for a good while, right? Not just the 9 years that the 8A opportunity affords for you to do. So for me, I was thinking strategically. I'm still thinking strategically and looking for larger opportunities and open opportunities to bid on. So Jan, what about you when you were in your 8A program?
So a lot of my work, as I had mentioned in a previous episode, was because I'm a service disabled veteran or a veteran-owned business. So, but the 8A really gave me an opportunity to help jumpstart my business. So it really played an important part. But, you know, Ronette, speaking of that, I've seen and witnessed so many companies who, once their 8A ran out, they were like dying and desperate for work because they did not think strategically. They didn't think about what's going to happen at the end of this 9 years when I don't have this 8A anymore. So like you said, you have to have a strategic plan on what your goal is, how you're going to figure it out after your 8A expires. So.
Absolutely. And a lot of times I used to hear early on when starting this business that, oh, once you get your 8A, government contracting officers are just going to give you work. That is so not true. That is not true. Do not listen to people who say that. You have to actually bid, you have to market, you have to build relationships. There's so much to it in order for you to receive direct awards. So do your homework. Don't just believe what everybody says. Go to SBA.gov and read about the 8A program.
Right.
So
right. No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
And sometimes, you know, it can work that way if you're in the right place at the right time.
Right.
You know, when you're visiting that contracting officer, you know, for maybe the umpteenth time, or sending an email to that contracting officer, and they're like, and it just so happens that you were the last person they talked to and they have an 8A opportunity, and they're like, oh, well, let's give it to that person. So it can work, but the likelihood of it is very slim. So, you know, just don't give up.
Exactly. Don't give up, but do your homework, do your research. The next question that was asked is, how do you penetrate into a market that you have a great personal experience with, but zero business past performance? So what I would say there is, for me, I marketed myself first as a 1099. So I was able to subcontract and gain experience, but under my company's name, right? So our company started building past performance. One of the things, and I'll keep referring this back to the 8A program, is you have to diversify your revenue before you even apply for it. You can't have 70% of your revenue under one revenue stream, meaning if you're a subcontractor under just one company or just one agency, you have to have multiple revenue streams. So for me, I marketed it myself as a 1099 first, but I actually got my first employee 6 months down the road, but I was ready 6 months down the road. And we'll talk more about that when we get into our finances on how I was ready for that. But Jan, what about you? What would you say?
So I'm in perfect agreement, because when I started JMA Solutions, I was a 1099 or independent consultant, if those of you who don't know what a 1099 is. So I just worked, I was the only employee, in other words. And so I worked until I got some past performance, or either I was utilized by another company because they have to show, when they're bidding on contracts, they have to show what they call the socioeconomic piece of their proposal, meaning that, you know, they have to hire a woman to be a consultant or a subcontractor, or minority, or a disabled veteran, or something such as that. So sometimes, you know, just the fact that you're in the right place at the right time, you can pick up contract support by working with another company. But then we go back to relationships.
Yeah. Building
relationships with other companies so that you can come on board and bring in that past performance. And then maybe, you know, making an agreement with them that whatever it is, that the piece that you want when they win the contract, you will get it. So that will help build your past performance. But relationships, building relationships.
And if we can just touch on that just a little bit, in building relationships, a lot of times it's building relationships with other business owners, people that you have met, some folks you may know in the government, or some of your former military friends who may be working in the government, or who may have the same social economic categories that you may have, who have started a business as well. So look at your network. You know, who can you build those relationships with, and they know and trust you that you will do a great job if you subcontract under them. Would you say that's a good way, like you just said?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And even, you know, like we say, a lot of times when we're talking government because that's where we are. That's the space we're in. But, you know, we're talking about real estate, talking about beauticians or cosmetologists. You can always team with another person who's already established, get in there, get your feet wet, get the past performance, learn the trade, save your money, or, you know, we're going to talk a little bit about loans and things like that, and then take off on your own and do your own thing. So yeah, depending on what, you know, what the business model is, what your business model is, you need to try to get some work with that kind of a person so that you can build on your, it makes you a better person and a better business owner.
Absolutely. And so thank you. And the next question is, do you suggest doing business with multiple agencies? Doing business causes me anxiety with the state of the government, especially after the shutdown. So Jen, I'll let you answer that one first, and then I'll go in.
So you know, I'm the kind of person, it's like, give it all to me. I'll take it all. I'm not afraid. I will take it all. I don't care. 10 government agencies. If I got the bandwidth and the ability to pay the people and the ability to bid on the work, I'm going for the gusto. Now, most of your small business leaders will not recommend that. Okay. They will say, you know, maybe go with 1 or 2 agencies and kind of limit it at that. But, you know, then you have people like me, and you'll find that Ronette and I talk about this all the time because, you know, we have 2 different mindsets. Okay. She's very structured and I'm like living on the edge. Okay. but it's so who I am. But it's worked for me, and you know, that's the best I can say, you know, it's worked for me. But yeah, so, you know, if as I read your question here, it says it causes you anxiety. If it causes you that much anxiety, don't do it. Just go for a 1 or 2, you know, start out and then just feel your way from there. So, but Ronette, I'll let you take it from here.
No, I totally understand your point. As you grow, I think we can expand our bandwidth. But for me, when I started this business, I started where I was comfortable. And that was the agency that I had just left as a federal employee. And so I started there because I knew the agency, I knew how they worked, I knew what they purchased, and I knew people who actually worked there. So I didn't burn any bridges, always had great relationships. So, but when I started going to the small business industry days, that's when, you know, the contracting officers will come out or the program office will come out and they'll start talking to you about what it is that they buy, you know, how can they get to you, whether it's through different vehicles or whatever. But that's where I started figuring out, okay, I'm an 8A, I'm a hub zone. Well, I wasn't an 8A then, but I was a hub zone and an economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. And so they had goals to meet that they had to meet on those set aside categories. So that's how I figured out which agencies that I should target, because if they were not meeting their hub zone goal, then I wanted to go and market to that agency and say, hey, you can move this work through a sources sought or market research to a hub zone, right? And we can help you reach your goal. And I believe you were doing that early on too for the service disabled who was not reaching their goal. And those were some of the agencies that you all targeted as well.
Right.
So
we still do.
Absolutely. So there's a scorecard on, I believe it's on SBA site where you can see the scorecard on every government agency. And I am talking government because that's the line of business that I'm in, but I'm sure there's more in different areas. But you look at that scorecard and you see who is not meeting their requirements, who is not meeting their goal, and then try to look at their OSTUBU page, which is the Office of Small and Disadvantaged Business, and look at their forecast and see if they are buying what you're selling.
Mhm.
So for me, going to multiple agencies at a time was not an option back then because we didn't have the revenue to support that. I didn't have the overhead staff to support that. And I didn't have the bandwidth to support it back then. But as you grow, as you know, JMA has grown, she has people who can do that. Right?
I got a couple.
So, yeah.
Right.
Did you have anything else you wanted to add to
No,
that?
no, I'm
Okay.
good.
Okay, hopefully we answered that question. So the next question, let's see, how do you start? What do I do to get past a hurt credit life to achieve a better life? So did you want to touch on that?
Sure. So I must tell you, when I was young, I didn't give a hoot about a credit score. All I was concerned about was feeding my children, okay, and making sure I could pay my bills, you know, even though a few of those might have been late, but, you know, and hurt my credit score. But I didn't really know, to be honest, I didn't know what a credit score was for many, many years. So when I finally, you know, retired and started, you know, was looking at starting a company. I retired from the military, went to work as a consultant. Then I started looking at the credit score when I was trying to refinance or buy a house, buy a condo. And they say, oh, your credit score is so low, so your interest rate is going to be high. And I'm like, oh my goodness, well, how do I fix that? So there's no quick fix, but when I went to work as an independent consultant, I was making enough money to be able to pay my bills and just get rid of a bunch of stuff. Now, you know, there are agencies out there that can help you consolidate. You know, you got to do your homework, as Ronette always says, to make sure that you find the right company that's going to do the best for you. So consolidate your bills and try to get them paid off as quickly as you can. And just, you know, work on that credit score. There's some information out there on how to, you know, what kind of credit you should have, you know, whether you should have a bunch of credit cards or you should have one or two and max them out. You know, there's a lot of information out there. Just really, really, really pay attention to that. But, you know, if you have the wherewithal to fix your credit life, you can do it. I did it. I'm telling you, I don't even know what my credit score was early on, but I know it was bad. And I also filed bankruptcy years ago. Just as I was entering the military, I filed bankruptcy because when I went into service, I knew I wasn't going to have enough money to pay my bills. And I wanted to get out of my city, just get away and take my kids with me. So, yeah, just, you know, focus. You have to focus and be sure that this is what you want to do and work on it. But you can make it happen. You can fix it.
Absolutely. And I know one of the other things that we're going to touch on is when we're talking about credit is the SBA 7A loan and the EIDL loan and the PPP, which we'll talk about a little bit. But the EIDL loan was based off of your credit. So if you needed that, you needed to ensure that your credit was good. So we'll talk about that more a little bit later.
Okay.
Next was you are both in a male-dominated industry. Women are usually seen in a different light than their male counterparts. How have you used this to your advantage while not compromising your values?
So we definitely have to work harder and smarter than our male counterparts, and even more so sometimes than our own African-American male counterparts. But yeah, so it's interesting, and I do have a story that I'd like to share with you all. You know, before JMA Solutions became a pretty DC-wide name, people didn't really know who I was. So I would go out to these conferences, meetings, small business meetings, and, you know, be standing in a crowd of all men. Sometimes I was the only woman most of the time. And, you know, they'd have their conversations and I would try to interject something, my thoughts. And it was like, you know, the feeling that I got was, oh, who are you? And, you know, we don't really care what you think. So then when it came time to, share business cards, and they looked at my card and they saw president and CEO, woman owned, service disabled veteran, blah, blah, blah. Then it's like, oh, we need to talk. Maybe we can work together. Well, how come, can I give you a call? Can I contact your administrative support and get on your calendar? It's like, interesting. I don't really want to talk to you now. So, so definitely, I mean, it exists, it's gonna exist, and but we just deal with it to the best of our ability. But usually we have the last laugh.
Right. And I can attest to that too. I remember we were asked a team on an opportunity. It was a large IDIQ, and I walked in the room, and I was not only the only female, but the only Black female in the room. They were all white males. So when they asked everyone to stand up and introduce themselves, and I said who I was, by the end of that meeting, don't you know, people start walking over to me. Like you said, they just look at you, they're a little standoffish. Some people were, but eventually they come over and they start a conversation. But for me, it made me feel good, when they came over. But initially, I was just like, "Wow, okay, is this what we're doing?" But it ended up turning out to be a great working relationship too, because me, I love everybody. So
I don't. So no, I have nothing to add. So yeah.
Yeah.
So
that was all the questions.
Yes, right. Yeah. So it is a male-dominated industry. Yeah, we don't compromise our values. That's something I refuse to do, is compromise my value. Absolutely. So we just make it work for us, but we do it in our own way. So
absolutely. But yeah, we definitely demand respect, because we have reputable businesses, and we are definitely built on integrity, and we are just we're doing it.
Yes. We're trying.
So now we're going to talk about startup costs, right? There's so much to starting a business, and there are a lot of costs associated with it, and we can't necessarily give you a cost, but just give you an idea of some of the things that you may need to do when you're starting your business. And so, Jan, did you want me to take it from here?
You can go ahead and start.
So some of the things that you want to look at, depending on your type of business. Now, you will have to, if you're a beautician or real estate or any of those other areas, you will have to kind of judge this, or look at your small business office or your local state to see some of the startup costs there. But a majority of the things that you need is a business license. You need your EIN number, which is free, but the cost for your business license is going to cost you. You need to register your business. That's going to be a cost. If you need equipment, like laptops, printers, copying machines, any of that, depending on if it's just you or if you have multiple people, you have to look at that type of cost associated. Also, if you're not a mom and pop and you're not working from home, you have to go out and acquire office space or rent office space. Then you have to look at that cost. Depending on where you are, the cost can be high or low. When you're ready to start building your business and build your website, you'll have to do your website. You have to pay for your domain costs. If you want someone to design your logo, you may have to find somebody to do that. And then, unless you can do it for yourself, which is great, that's minimal cost. And then you also need insurance, business insurance, right? Workman's comp insurance if you have employees. There's all types of insurance that can just, skyrocket depending on if you have employees or not. So those are just some of the basic things that you need. And I would also, I think we talked about this last week about an attorney, but I would say you don't necessarily need one on a retainer. You just pay them as you go. But your PTAC, Professional Technical Assistance Center, has a lot of help for you as far as attorneys are concerned. So definitely reach out to your local PTAC office for information. Did I forget anything, Jan?
No, some of those things we're going to cover later anyway. So under, staying legally compliant. So no, you did good. That's fine.
Okay.
Well, talking about costs, getting money for your startup. So yeah, somebody just said, if you're a 1099, do you need business insurance? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes, for sure. Are you finding organizations like WDCEP? I'm not sure what those are, but we can, are you familiar with those acronyms, Ronette?
I am not.
Okay, we'll look those up and get some information on that. So that's good. CEP and I know somebody's already writing this down for us, so I'll make sure that we get that later. So, so talking about, money for your startup costs, if you don't have the money available, like I did, and we spoke about this before. I think I borrowed $10,000 from the bank, did just a signature loan. I asked Ronette to borrow $10,000 from her bank. So she got did I ever pay you that back?
Oh my goodness. Look, I'm adding interest on that too.
I think I did, but I don't remember. But I'm sure if I didn't, you would have let me know like a long time ago in 2007 or 8 or something. Yeah. Okay.
It's okay. We're good.
So borrow from friends, family, or other sources. So some of the things that, and also, if you want to use, and I think we mentioned this before as well, absolutely keeping the current job that you have while you're starting your business and using some of the resources or some of the money that you're making on that job to help pay for your business, or trying to find an independent consultant position doing what you're doing to make more money and, use that money to fund your startup costs for your business. So just a thought.
Yes. And if I can just touch on that. So I know I spoke about this last week, is I started as a 1099 or independent consultant, and I just saved my money as much as possible because I knew one day I was going to hire my first employee, and I had to have enough money to pay the salary, to pay their taxes, payroll taxes, insurance, and all of that. So save your money if you can. And this is a great time during COVID because you don't have all those extra expenses as commuting, metro,
Oh my God.
Lunches outside, coffee breaks, all of that.
Yeah.
Right?
And clothes to go to all the functions.
Yep, sorry.
What clothes am I going to do? I need a new outfit. Do I need another gown for the ball? And then paying the cost to go to the ball. And Uber costs and shoes and purses and oh my goodness, it's like I'm getting a pay raise just
exactly.
So
now is the time to save money, and if you have some debt issues, pay off your debt.
Yes, exactly. Very good. Yes.
So I apologize, my alarm went off, but that was for Huggy Lowdown to come on.
Oh, yeah. So then we can talk about banking.
Right. And so one of the other things was, where can you get money from too, just back on startup costs. And one thing, like Jan mentioned earlier, from a trusted family member or a trusted resource, and always remember to pay that person back, right?
Yes.
So
give them a little extra too if they don't charge you interest. It's okay to give them a little bit more because you may want to come back and get some more later. So make sure that you make them know that you appreciated what they did. So because if you're going to those other people to get some money, trust me, they're gonna charge you an arm and a leg to use their money. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about business banking. We'll just go right into that. And I believe we also touched on this last week too, but if you have a relationship with your banker, that's a good place to go to apply for a line of credit. And then I'll tell you just a little bit about what I did is because I really didn't have a business banker back then. When I started, I had a credit union because I was a federal employee and I was a part of that credit union. And so I went to them. I said, hey, I want to start a business and I need a business checking account. And they said, well, we don't actually do that here. You'd have to go to more of a commercial bank to get a business checking account and a business line of credit. And so I said, well, you know, I have all my money here. I like this bank. I like you all. I want to stay here. And so what they said I could do was start another account. And so I started another account and I just named it JLAN Solutions. So I used that for all of my banking. And when I got my first line of credit, they actually gave me a small personal line of credit, although it's not a business line of credit, it was a personal line of credit. So I was able to utilize that. And then eventually, as JLAN started to grow, then I moved on to a larger bank. And they actually gave me a little bit of a larger line of credit. So I'm still working on trying to find another bank, but it is what it is. I'm not going to go there. But that's how I was able to have my first business bank account and grow from there. And
Right.
so, Jan, did you want to touch on that?
So, yeah, so I was a member of Navy Federal Credit Union, and I did start there, but only for a very small, limited amount of time. I was recommended, it was recommended to me that I find a small, like community bank who caters to small businesses. So there was a bank called Adams Bank, and just so happens it was my last name, but it was Abigail Adams, named after her. And they did a really good job. I swear by them, but of course they're not there any longer. They were purchased during that banking crisis by another bank. So, finding, like Ronette said, either a bank that you're already doing business with, or looking for a small community bank that caters to small businesses. Some of the larger banks, I mean, they're okay. I'm with the larger bank now because I really needed that robustness that the larger banks offer. But look for a bank that, caters to small businesses.
Okay.
Yes.
And then we want to talk about taxes.
Well, let's talk about the SBA. Has
Okay.
something called a vendor match program where they match business owners with banks. So, which is something I just learned about today because I was doing some research for our meeting today. And it's like, this is interesting because every time before we meet, I do my own little research and I find some things that I didn't know before. So the SBA, if you talk to them, they will, within 2 days of your contact with them, they will match you up with a bank that they think can fit your needs. Doesn't always work out, but at least it's a start. So there is an email where you can email them. It's called Lender, Lendor. Is that how you spell Lender?
Yeah.
Sorry, I knew something was wrong with that. Lender, lendermatch.sba.gov. Okay, so, or you can just go on SBA's website. There it is right here on our site here. So thank you, Iman. So yeah, you reach out to them and see what happens. It won't hurt to ask the question, So just give you some options of where you can maybe find some money to help you. Go
Right,
ahead,
definitely. And we were talking about the SBA loan as well, the 7A loan. It's a loan program that SBA offers, but I believe it is also based off of your credit as well, but it helps small businesses get started. So you want to look into that as well. It's also on that same link, or they'll put up a new link for you. But, and you also want to look, as far as funding is concerned, to grants in your local state. So for instance, in DC, through this COVID-19 pandemic, DC offered a DC micro grant to small businesses here in the District of Columbia. So I'm sure other states did as well, but you have to check with your state and see what they offered. But that's something to look at as well. There were other minority small businesses grants that are out there during this COVID-19 pandemic. Facebook had a loan program, a grant program. Home Depot and Lowe's, Verizon had one as well. JP Morgan and Chase had one as well. So A lot of those were out there. The small business offices were sending those emails out. So definitely look into some of those that are out there. And then I know, Jan, you sent me an email today that PPP ends tomorrow.
Yes, yes.
So hopefully everybody was able to apply if you were eligible for the PPP.
Yes, I hope so, because there was a whole lot of money out there and a lot of people getting that money that didn't really need that money. And so they have a whole bunch of money that they haven't given out. So I wonder, and I'm just thinking out loud, if they're going to extend it tomorrow or let it go away and then bring it back again, because I think they're getting ready to do another stimulus bill. And in that stimulus bill, hopefully, there'll be some more money that's geared towards small businesses that small businesses will actually get, and not the big boys who don't really need it. So we'll see. Okay. So taxes?
Taxes.
Yes, taxes. Oh, taxes. Oh my goodness.
What they used to say, death by taxes, right?
I tell you, yes, exactly. Only three things in life that don't change is, you're going to stay the color that you are, except for maybe like Sammy Sosa. People who know Sammy Sosa know what I'm talking about. Or you have to die. I mean, we all have to do that. And you have to pay taxes, because if you don't, you're going to jail. So three things, right?
Hilarious. Okay.
Old school stuff. So
taxes.
Here's a question. Are they giving grants to startup businesses?
You'll have to go, if you're in DC, I would definitely go onto their website, because they do have some programs for startups. And I can't think of it off the top of my head. I would have to research that and get back to you, but we'll definitely add that question to next week. But in reference to the taxes, we would definitely recommend you get a bookkeeper, especially early on. Early on, get a bookkeeper. A CPA will come later, but a bookkeeper will help you if you're not doing it yourself through QuickBooks or some other means like that. So I would definitely recommend you get a bookkeeper early on. I've had mine for 10 years now. She's a CPA now, but she's been with me from the beginning.
So my thoughts are, and like I say, Ronette and I, we're different, but we make it happen. Is that you, if you're very, very small, I can't see paying the expense for a bookkeeper. I can see you keeping your books on Excel spreadsheet or QuickBooks if you know how to work it. And if not, just make sure you keep documentation and then take it and throw it at your whoever's doing your taxes during tax time and let them figure it out. So, but if you can't afford a bookkeeper, then you need to try to figure out how to make it work. And there are there are books. I used to go to not a library, but there's libraries are still open, so you can go to the library and look for some business invoicing or business books that can help you keep your books. Or going to, I don't even know if Barnes and Noble still in existence. I mean, things are changing so fast during COVID-19. I don't know what's there and what's not. Amazon.com I know is there. And I know I usually Google them when I'm looking for a book relating to certain things. As a matter of fact, that's what I used to do when I first started my company, is I needed to know what a wrap rate was and how to figure out my overhead and my general and administration, my G&A, and how much fee I need to keep. And I used to go look for books that would explain all those things to me. So I'm very independent and a self-starter. So I like to do things on my own until I get to a point where I can't do them anymore. So that's just my thoughts on that. So
that's fine. That's fine. We all have our strengths. We have our strengths and weaknesses, right?
Exactly.
But I would definitely recommend that when it's tax time, if you are an independent consultant, pay your taxes quarterly. That is the greatest gift someone told me, is to pay your taxes quarterly, because at the end of the year, that tax bill that you receive on all of that money that was not taxed, it's going to hurt, especially if you didn't save it. So pay your taxes quarterly.
So yeah, so and depending on how large you get, well, I should say, you're not really small, but you're medium, somewhere between small and medium. I mean, you're going to need that extra help because your accountant can actually give you some projections of what your taxes are going to look like at the end of the year, so that you can pay more quarterly. So when it gets to that end of year or tax time fee, you won't be hurting so bad. So that's what I have now. I have a tax accountant who actually calculates what my tax liability is going to be so that we can put more in those quarterly payments. Or at the end of the year, before December 31st, we write a big check to Uncle Sam. And so when it's tax time, I won't be hit so hard. So just, keep those things in mind.
And one thing that I might add is, as you grow, you have to pay more taxes depending on what state or district that you live in.
Oh my goodness, yes. That's so
Things
true.
you don't even know about that you have to start paying for.
So most people, when they sign a check, they're gonna look at it or sign like some documents. You're gonna look at it and make sure that, when my taxes come across my desk, I don't know what I'm looking at anyway. So I just sign it. I don't even want to know what it is that I'm paying, as long as the money's there to take care of it, because it's just like, you don't want to know. Because if you do, you might lose some sleep that night. So.
That's for large businesses. I'm small. Okay. Staying legally compliant, and we are at the 43 minutes, so I know we want to
time goes so
end here
fast.
shortly.
Okay.
So one thing that I would recommend is, if you do have your office, you have employees, you want to look at SHRM, which is the Society for Human Resource Management, and they will help you with workplace posters, health and safety laws, disabilities, affordable care, all of those business documents that have to be posted in your office, wherever your office may be, especially if you have employees. But SHRM is a great resource to use, and it's SHRM, Society for Human Resource Management. It's SHRM.org.
Yes, yes.
And you also want to, as you're staying legally compliant, make sure you don't copyright anything unless it's yours. What else do you have to add to that, Jan?
Nothing much, since we're getting close to the end, but business insurance, make sure you take care of that. Like one of our listeners mentioned early on, and we will reemphasize, business insurance is a must, even as a consultant. Even we have some subtenants in my office space. They even have to have the certificate of liability. It's interesting because if we have a big event or something and we have a caterer coming into the building requires that caterer provide a certificate of insurance before they will even let them bring food or anything into the building. In case they get hurt in the building, they need to know that there's insurance that covers them. So business insurance is just a must. But we can move on, Ronette. I think we need to go to the cyber threats, and then we'll probably close it up from there.
Okay, you want to go ahead with that?
You can.
Okay. All right. So you're so funny.
The cyber.
One of the things that you want to be mindful of is cyber threats. And there's insurance out there for that as well. You definitely want to talk to some brokers who actually get you those insurance policies. So we definitely have it, and I'm sure not everybody does, because sometimes you're too small, or you're small, or you're just starting, and you don't have the funds to get that started, but something to definitely look at. And one thing that I am trying to do, and what JLAN is trying to do, is to get into the DoD space. So DoD now has a requirement where you have to be CMMC certified. And that is, for cybersecurity. So it's the Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification. So if you want to do business with DoD, you need to look into that certification. It's the big thing for this year. And I believe we had a year to actually get that certification. So we are actually working on that now. But definitely Google CMMC regarding your IT systems.
But
So
isn't there another one that we had to do previously?
NIST 171.
Yes. Okay. Right.
Requirements. Yes.
And SBA has free cyber training. So you just go to their website and they'll talk to you about it. So.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think that was pretty much all that we have on our agenda for this week.
Yes.
So did you want to close this out?
So we can do it jointly. We did want to let you know that we won't be on next Monday because we're going to take the 3-day weekend and enjoy the holiday. And anything on that you want to say, Ronette, about the 4th of July?
Well, just wish everybody a safe 4th of July or Independence Day, and remember to stay safe and social distance. And like she said, we are going to take off next Monday just to enjoy the long weekend, but we will be back with more of your questions answered, and also we'll have a new topic, and we'll have some surprises in store for you when we return.
So, we're so excited for those of you who have continued to follow us, those of you who are new in following us, and we really, really hope that you got something out of it. I mean, we really do. Because we're just here, as we mentioned early on when we first started, that, there's a lot of entertainment on Instagram. So many comedians, so much music, and I listen to it all as much as I can anyway. And we wanted to do something that could maybe help people, give some information or provide some information that could help someone else other than just being entertained, something that you could find useful to maybe, grow your future, grow your life, grow your business, do whatever. What do we call that? Wealth, generational wealth, build generational wealth. Yes. So we're gonna keep this going as long as we've got people like you who are out there listening to us, and we just want to thank you so much for tuning in. If you have some questions, we're gonna check the questions that you asked and make sure that we respond to them the next time. But if you have other questions, please hit us up on our website or on our social media. We're paying attention, and we will definitely get back to you. So have a wonderful 4th weekend. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and we look forward to seeing you on the next Business Monday, which is July the 13th. I had it written down. 13th. Okay. All right.
Yes,
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Love you, Mom.
Okay, you too. Bye, Cynthia. Cynthia Boston.
Oh, nice. From Youngstown, Ohio. Yay.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I don't lose this time.
We're doing better. Okay, bye, Mom.
Okay, see you later.